with that, we come to our last person near, and I almost wanted to comment when we were all trying to pick our the next series to cover for this episode, right? I saw the last three like series you had on your list to cover, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, the person at this you were just like, I'll just pick this series. I was like, yeah, the series the guy who's at a buffet is just like, I'll just pick the lobster
Look, man,
out of
I
the three
offered
series.
I offered Gundam to Toast, okay, and Toast was like, "Nope." So
I, I saw your three series and I was like,
my hands are up.
it's
My hands
like,
are up.
yeah, Nier is like, I didn't want to be dragged to this buffet, sir. But yeah, you have a certain very famous series, at least in this, with regards to this season, for us to
Yeah,
cover.
yeah.
So, would you like to tell us what it is?
Um, so I watched Lazarus.
Yes, sir.
Um, and yeah, Lazarus is kind of popular. Um, I'd say
Pretty
it's
hyped up.
probably the most
Uh,
popular of the season outside of like
at least the most
sequels, I
hyped up.
guess.
Most hyped up, period. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a anime original by Studio Mappa, um,
Mhm.
from the creator of Cowboy Bebop. Um, Shinichiro
Watanabe
Watanabe
Shinichiro.
is the director,
Mhm.
scriptwriter, storyboarder, and original creator of this series. So he is effectively in full creative control. He is basically in charge of basically everything that goes on here.
You know
Um,
what I thought for a second? I was like, it would have been so funny if he pulled the Geno Nobuchi and just like after 3 episodes, he was just like,
Oh, it
you know
just
what,
leaves.
actually,
yeah,
yeah, he
never
just
mind.
leaves.
Um, yeah, so for those who don't know, Shinichiro Watanabe's done stuff like Cowboy Bebop, Space Dandy, Kellen Tuesday,
Mhm.
Zankyo no Terror, which is a bit
I
iffy.
I like how
Uh,
you went from like all these good series, and then you were like, by the way, he also kind of did
yeah,
Zankido
he also
Terror.
did Zankyo no Terror.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you also put him in like a tone where you're like putting them on the same platform as these
yeah,
other
yeah.
series.
He also did stuff like Sakamichi no Apolon, which is a bit less
Uh-huh.
talked about, but I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
Some people
Yeah,
aren't,
yeah.
but you know, and stuff like
I
Samurai
think at least
Champloo.
the quality of it, like how it's produced, like the story at the very end aside, the quality of how it was produced at the very least is not up for
Yeah, yeah.
contention. I think it was good.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, he's kind of famous, right?
Mhm.
Oh
Um,
yeah, would name his best work.
Cowboy Bebop.
Are you sure? I saw it on Netflix and it sucked.
That's true, true. Um, but yeah. Uh, so I went into this kind of trying to divorce the comparisons to Cowboy Bebop. But I will say it's really hard to do that when the presentation of this series
Yes, sir.
is constantly reminding you that this is from
I
the
mean, it's
creator of
purposeful.
Cowboy
It's
Bebop.
purposeful,
Of
right?
course,
It's like
yes, of
that's
course.
this is what
Um,
people wanted.
I'll go over some of the cast real quick, just because it's pretty stacked, right? Just doing being due to the fact that again Shinichiro Watanabe,
Mm.
it's Mappa Studios. Um, so you have Shinichiro Watanabe, doing that. You also have Dai Saito, who's also doing the script. I guess he's like co-scripting. He was in charge of Yurei Deco, which I covered and was a fan of. Um, however, is he the guy? Yeah, he was also fuck. He was also in charge of the script and series composition of Ergo Proxy,
Why?
which is a series that is pretty famous for nothing ever happening in it. Um, you also have a lot of chief animation directors. I'm not going to go through all of them, but the main sort of thread through all of these sort of staff listings is a lot of them seem to have worked on the Evangelion rebuilds, um, and I think a pretty common project that a lot of these people have worked on as well is Maquia, which was one of the
Oh,
I
okay.
guess somewhat
Mhm.
recent um, movies
Makio
from
yeah, Makio was with, still with PA Works, right? I believe?
yeah, it was PA Works.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Because it was one of the
and
series. Yeah, yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
and a lot of them
Mhm.
also worked on the recent Maboroshi movie from Mappa. Um,
Okay,
so
okay,
it's
okay, I
it's a
see.
pretty common uh, sort of thread that a lot of them have had. Another interesting staff pick is where let's see, where is his name? Kamasi Washington, who is in charge of the
Oh,
music for this. As far as I'm aware, he's never worked on um, an anime OST at all. And looking into it, he seems to be a relatively famous jazz musician. Um,
oh, okay, I see.
so
Oh yeah,
fitting the
name
bill.
one work. You like jazz?
I, I've never listened to him, so I can't. Um, but yeah. Um, so yeah, the staff is pretty packed. There's a lot of people working on this. There's a lot of talent. Um, and I guess I'll go over the basic premise because there's not it's pretty bare bones foundation. The basic idea is um, it's in the future, sort of gritty, sci-fi setting, and humanity is kind of sort of in this state where people are kind of sad and depressed because capitalism sucks, I guess. And this doctor, this scientist, comes out with this super drug um, that's called Hapuna. And Sirius sets it up as like this super drug that is like crazy popular and everybody takes it. Um, but it's effectively just a painkiller. Um, and uh, yeah, they basically just like, yeah, it's like super Advil. And when you take it, you don't feel any pain. Um, and I guess it takes the world by storm. Um, and then it's revealed, I guess, like 4 years after this drug sort of takes over. The doctor is like, "Hey, by the way, that drug that you guys all take, it's gonna kill you in 30 days. In 30 days, everybody's gonna die." Um,
I mean, the
un-
crazy part, I don't know if you're gonna mention it too, though, is that he prefaces it basically by being like, "Wait, you guys haven't had like world peace after I released my amazing drug?
yeah. So basically, he's
Now you
like,
die."
"Yeah, I released this super painkiller, and for whatever reason, uh, companies still exist, and global warming is still happening. Therefore, I'm going to kill all of you with my drug that is going to mutate and kill everybody." Um, Motivations are a little off, I'll say. They're a bit bizarre. Um, but the series does sort of go into maybe something that has sort of happened to his mental within the 4 years, or maybe somebody's just like completely impersonating him. Whatever, it's very mystery series stuff. But basically, the premise is uh, they have to find him within 30 days. Otherwise, people are basically going to start dying. Like, they're just going to start dropping like flies. Um, and it's sort of a spy thriller kind of mystery series
Yeah,
where,
it's more like, it's not it's like because you would think that this, like, think that this series would be a little bit more about, like, the humanity, that, like, deep kinda thing, right? But it's less that and more, how do I say it? It's more like one of those, like, thief thriller, like, Ocean's 11 kind of series,
yes,
at
yes,
least the way
it's
it's
very it's
developing.
it's
Yeah.
got a very Ocean's vibe to it.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I do like. I was so when this was initially announced with this premise, I was really scared. So there are two roads that this series faced, right? One was the super like philosophical, like, oh, like
Yes, sir.
everybody's gonna die in 30 days. What does it mean
Is
to
humanity
like,
even worth saving?
yeah, what does it
Yeah.
mean to
So
live
yeah.
your life, and is humanity really worth saving, and yada yada yada, blah blah blah. And then there's the road that this took, and I'm gonna say right now, both of these roads were they were rocky. They were both rocky roads.
They're
Um,
dangerous, yeah,
they
unless
yeah,
you handle them right.
they were not good roads to take, I will say. And then there's the road that this series took, which is the focus on the like solving the solution immediately, right? Like sort of
Yeah.
saving
They're
the
probably
world,
gonna have
basically.
that, like, theme at the very end if
Yeah, I'm
they do
sure. I'm
catch
sure
the doctor
once
or whatever,
they
but yeah.
once they find the
Yeah.
doctor, they're gonna have this sort of
Yeah.
philosophical discussion
I
and
will
stuff. But
say
it's
though,
not like the
I
main
will
focus of the
say,
series.
and this
Yeah.
is not a super spoiler, but it does kind of touch on, which I was afraid it wasn't going to, especially recently. It does kind of touch on like the doctor's mental state, like being fucking stupid and being
Yeah,
like,
for sure,
who
for
made you
sure.
God? Like,
Yeah,
who
yeah,
made him God to be able to try and make this decision for us and
yeah.
judge us as
Um,
unworthy?
but majority of this is, and this is a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It really depends on how you sort of look at this series. But it's the ragtag group of heroes, quote unquote, who's basically just a a group of outlaws and outcasts that are sort of been recruited by this sort of CAA group that's like, hey, if you don't want to be in prison, you're gonna come work for us. Um, and it's like, well, they all have like 30 days to live anyway, so do they really have a choice?
Yeah.
Um,
I love Suicide Squad.
yeah. Um, and the series is sort of them sort of chasing leads, trying to find any sort of clue as to where this doctor is. Um, and it really, I think your enjoyment of this series is very much going to depend on how much you can take the characters running into dead ends over and over and over again.
Yeah, because it's like
Because
the unfortunate part of this is, like, ultimately, you know that this is a 12, or this is a very meta conversation, right? But it's like, you know that this is a 12-episode anime. This is a 12-episode anime, right?
it's
This
13, but yeah.
13, yeah, yeah. This is the 13, the very standard one core anime season anime, and you know that in order to run this while still, because they want to keep this, Watanabe wants to keep this pace, right? Because Watanabe wants to keep this pace, they quote unquote have to constantly run into dead ends. Else it's just gonna be like, else because if they don't fill that with dead ends and them doing into something else or running into obstacles like constantly, if it's not that, then they have to fill that time by starting to do exposition to the lore, which is like
Yeah.
not, or like do character background shit, which like neither of which probably Watanabe does not want to do, and most people probably also do not really want to watch, right? So it's like, it's a little bit, it's between a rock and a hard place in a sense.
Yeah, which is why I said both roads that this series could have took were not good roads to take.
Yeah.
They the half of this series so far, half of this series is out, and effectively half of this series is them being like, I think I've got a lead. They chase the lead, and by the end of the episode, they're like, well, that was a dead end. And that's pretty much the series so far. And I'm not gonna lie, it's presented well. The characters they're slick. They have very good presentation. All the characters have pretty good motivations. They've got good chemistry together. The world is set up in a pretty believable way. They don't focus on the world building, which I think is smart. Because I think a big trap that a lot of these sort of um, near future sci-fi series fall into is like setting up all this fucking world building and corporations and you know like political infighting between nations and shit like that. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. Okay.
Yeah.
um like it's basically just the characters. They're fucking secret agents basically, and they're doing secret agent
Yeah,
shit, and it's pretty
yeah,
good at doing that. But
yeah.
again,
It's like
the
one of those
issue
like kill or
is,
thief kind of things. Yeah.
yeah, the issue is this is a series where like the audience knows that if the first lead that these characters like latch onto is going to end up leading them straight to the doctor, this is not going to be a very long show, right? Um,
Yeah, what I just mentioned about the 12 episode curse in
yeah.
a sense.
So, you
Yeah.
know, I think the fact that pretty much every lead so far has effectively been a dead end is probably an
Mm,
an error. I think there probably should have sprinkled a couple leads in that are like actually, you know, like slower burns, and maybe they need more time to pursue stuff like that. I think that probably would have been a smarter choice to do.
Yeah,
But so
so
far, it's essentially been like an episodic, like I have a lead, we're gonna go on a sort of
that's
spy
like it doesn't
adventure,
work. Yeah.
and it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so
I
I,
think
I was gonna say
works,
like it
but
it was a it was probably like it would be difficult to do this, but it was probably not the greatest idea to make it as like dead end, like you said, because there are a lot. I'm trying to think of one that really had much of a through line at all, and their progress is kind of through figuring out where like Dr. Skinner isn't and who he isn't directly
yeah,
connected to,
the only
which
the
is
only one
not
that they've kind of
really answering
that kind of
questions.
bore any fruit was the turkey. Them going to
Yeah, the
Turkey.
trip to Turkey.
Yeah, that was kind of the only one that was like this bore some amount of fruit because they know the doctor is like has like basically constant surveillance on his grandmother, right? They just don't know how. Um,
Yeah.
right. But pretty much all of them have kind of just been like, is this guy connected to the doctor? And then they chase him down, and it's like, nope. It's like, okay, great. I enjoy the episode, I enjoy the chase, but the, the series isn't like moving forward like at all, which is a bit of an issue
Yeah.
that I would say. Um, I think it's something that could easily be avoided, but um, no, it's
Yeah, the
definitely like I feel like it was kind of an inevitable rake that this series was going to step on. Um,
Yeah.
just like
So
having a lot of these dead ends, but yeah.
yeah, it'll be
yeah.
interesting to see if it turns into more of a chase than what we have right now.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Like
Yeah.
as it gets further, because
So
this is certainly not like a Jason Bourne like chase
No.
situation. Like
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's not like there are battle like fight sequences are every time happening, but it's like,
yeah.
can I?
Oh no, I mean there are
This is
fight
actually
sequences, but it's more so like the main goal
yeah,
is
but
like
it's not
gone right
focused.
now.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it is
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
there.
This actually, in my opinion, is the perfect time for me to ask this. But uh, so we go back to this whole idea of like what kind of things, general things do we want to do, right? Um, in this series, and again, obviously, you're talking, hey, if they're just gonna go for this deep, like, oh, what's gonna happen with humanity and all this bullshit, it's not really gonna go anywhere, right? Or like or not, it's not that's not gonna go anywhere, but it's gonna be very, how do I say this? Dangerous, right? Unless they handle it, unless the director Watanabe handles it very well. And there are other stuff like exposition of world building and all this other stuff that could also be dangerous. But given this current state of affairs, do you think that that part of it, and even kind of stretching it and including that much earlier on in like these like episode 5 6 and stuff like that, and adding some of like that lore and like the kind of cheesy philosophy kind of stuff, um do you think that that's necessary and would have added to this series currently, or
No.
do you think
No,
it's
I think
okay
it would
as
have
is?
I think it would have probably actively taken it away.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
because the reason I think that is because this cast, uh, so the cast of sort of heroes that we have, again,
Mhm,
they're all kind of misfits, right? They're kind of just like
mhm,
um I don't want to say bums, because like, you know, they're pretty good at what they do. But like they don't really, especially the main character Axel, like he doesn't really give a fuck, right? Like
Mhm.
he is a vagrant, right? Like he is a
Yeah, yeah,
fucking
yeah.
a leaf in the wind, basically, right? Like he
Mhm.
lives to fucking just wander. Um, and so I don't think the philosophy stuff with this cast would really add much of anything. They have this sort
Yeah.
of at the beginning of every
They
episode,
would
they
need to do
have
this, like,
this
weird thing where it's like they would need to have that initial, like, shock, like, "Why does Dr. Skinner or whoever want to do so much?" Or, like, maybe some of his followers or whatever, right? "Why did they go to this extent?" And then, like, they would need to go then expand upon their character backgrounds and, like, thoughts to, like, expand upon their, like, their character development, and then once they develop that, they will need to use that, like, more empathetic or sympathetic part of their character personality that just got developed into being like, you know, maybe there is something to what he said or some bullshit like that, right? It would take like multiple episodes to kind of like shape that.
yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would end up being clumsy. I
Yeah.
think the only character in the main cast right now that's sort of capable of like tackling this sort of philosophy of like, whether this is even, really worth pursuing, like is a humanity, you know, truly a lost cause type of
Worth
shit
saving. Yeah.
is Doug, which is the sort of black character in the
Yeah,
group,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
exactly.
like a former I think he's like a former professor or something. I forget
Yeah,
what
Yeah,
he
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 was
his
like
backstory
idolized
a
was.
he's a
Skinner.
I think he was
Yeah.
a master student, and he like or something. I like did you see MIT or some shit? And then like he
Something
got
like
into
that,
a
yeah.
fight. He
Yeah.
got into a fight with professor or some shit,
Yeah.
and then lost it
Um
all basically.
Yeah, but basically, like his thing was like he was effectively discriminated against because he's like a black man in academia, and he was sort of, I guess, kicked out after he got into some sort of altercation. Um, but yeah, like I think he's like the only character that could really tackle like the philosophy right now, because otherwise they're all like one's just like a hacker, the other one's like a fucking dropout, like college student or whatever. You have the main character who again is like a complete fucking uncaring vagrant right now. Like he's basically a fucking adrenaline junkie. Um, and then you have like the sort of like loosey goosey like girl of the group, right? Who's kind of
Mhm.
just like a flirty, like I don't know. She hasn't really had her backstory yet, right? Um, but yeah, like I don't really think the main cast right now would be like written well enough to be like able to uh tackle this sort of
Yeah,
philosophy
most of their
arguments
Yeah, I
character
will
effectively.
development
say
are
they
too, yeah, focused around this. Yeah.
yeah they do recently like the one of the most recent episodes does establish like the sort of backstory of the hacker girl.
Yeah,
But even then, her backstory establishes that she would not make that question. Like, she would very much be like, no, like, Skinner's insane and
yeah,
humanity deserves, like, freedom from people like that.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
again, I personally very much like that they're going that route because
Yeah,
I think it's much
they're very much
better.
painting Skinner as like this guy's insane, like this guy's fucked, like this guy's fucked in the head, and like a lot of the sort of um delving into like what his motivation is like I don't get it. Like this guy is effectively before he disappeared, he was a saint, right? Like he was, getting Nobel Peace Prizes and shit. He was advocating for, environmentalist stuff. And the only like sort of motivation so far is that like he reached some sort of fucking breaking point and completely snapped because like nobody was listening to him about like, you know, environmentalists like global warming stuff and reaching the point of no return or whatever. Um, and I think there was a scene where like he was at some UN speech or something, and several countries kind of just like pulled out in the middle of the speech, and I guess they're saying like maybe he went in fucking insane during that or something. And like yeah, but they're basically being like yeah, this guy's fucking crazy, right? Like there's no like pretty much all the characters are like, maybe he has a point. Maybe literally everybody on the planet should die. It's basically just like, yeah, this guy's fucked in the head.
Yeah, it's kind of
Right.
like it's
Yeah,
almost
yeah.
like a Thanos situation in a way where you're like, oh, I can see why he was driven to that, but also you're crazy. Like,
Yeah. Also, you're fucked in the head. All right.
Yeah.
Which I think
And
is good.
the important part, the important part of this is that the Dr. Skinner is not being set up as some sort of like later on he will reveal the truth and the all the characters will have to grapple with the grayest of moralities. It's not that
Yeah.
situation. It's more just like, yeah, okay, he's saying something that like it makes sense in our like context, but also like the point is we need to fucking get this guy. Like that's the focus.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think the setup is effective, if a little bit clumsy. Just due to the fact that like the super drug is just like it's like Giga Advil, and they're like, yeah, it's like Advil's so good you can make a lean out of it. It's like, okay,
yeah, it's like
like what are
man,
we talking about, man?
it's opioids but with no downsides. It's like, well,
Yeah, it's just like,
taking them
okay,
in and of themselves is kind of a downside.
yeah, it's
Like, I
just
don't think
like,
opioids for the masses is going to save the world, but all right.
yeah, I think that was probably a bad idea actually. I think making that was probably not good. Um, but yeah, this I think the setup is effective. Um, but yeah, I do like how again they don't fuck with the world building like at all. They're not really going into
Yeah.
like the sort of inner national politics of what this group is sort of representing and who they're representing, right? Like they're just there to solve the mission, right?
Mhm.
Um, and it focuses on that, and it does it pretty well. I do think it's stepped on some rakes so far. We're halfway through. You know, the plot hasn't moved a lot. Um, but I think the watching experience, the viewing experience is very fun, right? Um,
Mhm.
it helps that the audio visuals are absolutely fantastic. Again, this is Mappa Studios. They've obviously put a lot of fucking money into this. Um, Pretty much every episode has some sort of chase sequence or action sequence or, some sort of flashy uh, character movement or something. The main character Axel is like uh fucking kung fu Jesus and shit. Um, he can do parkour, he can do karate, he can fight fucking six people alone in an elevator.
Dude, the
He can do fucking
elevator
everything.
scene was like
The elevator scene was
insane.
fucking
That was
crazy.
fucking
Um,
ridiculous.
yeah,
He's the
I
Can
same
think
he
John Wick shit.
can he beat Captain America in an
Funny you should say
elevator?
that. I believe, and
probably
now
not.
I keep forgetting to look.
Probably not.
I keep forgetting to look this up, but I believe it is like the fight choreographer is the John Wick fight choreographer,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, I
yeah,
Like,
believe
yeah.
I
They
believe the
mentioned
choreo.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
the
mentioned it
John Wick
before. They
choreographer
brought
worked
in.
on this, um,
Yeah,
which is pretty crazy. Um, but yeah, the
so
the
much money
action
in this.
sequences are very impressive. I will
Mhm.
say, I think the action sequence in episode one, like the initial sort of jailbreak sequence, was a little bit too long. I think there were like,
Yeah,
we have so many ideas for this jailbreak sequence, and it's like, okay, you guys probably could have cut 3 or 4 of these.
yeah. It's like we
It was
understand
really
that
long.
it's like yeah, it's like it is like a product of love, I think, and obviously in a sense, but it's they also should, at some point you got to cut some part of it out. You know what I mean?
yeah, I
It's
mean,
like
well,
Yeah,
that's why I
there.
made the joke. Like with when the first episodes were out, I was like, oh, you don't think you can get a gauge of Lazarus from episode one, where it's like
Yeah,
ninety
it
percent
was
running?
literally just yeah, it was just all action. Like there's barely even any fucking dialogue in episode one.
I don't
But yeah,
know, man.
the audio visuals are really, really impressive. There's not very much CG. There's a bit of background CG here and there. I noticed a little bit of janky CG for some background, like moving, like characters, like in the panning shot for the turkey episode, where people
mhm.
are like walking on the roofs and stuff. They were CG, and it was pretty noticeable. Um, but otherwise, like pretty much all of the character acting in this is really good. The parkour is very
Yeah.
impressive. Again, the choreography is insane. The elevator sequence was just like absolutely fucking crazy. Um, it was such an awesome sequence. Um, yeah, it's very,
And
very,
you don't
very
really get
visually
to even
impressive.
even in battle sequences, you don't really get to see in anime, right? You don't really get to see a lot of that really proper animated choreography these
Yeah,
days.
like
You know what I
I
hand to
don't
mean?
know, man.
hand,
Have you
like
seen X Arm? Remember
true,
that?
true.
Remember that fight choreography? That guy was a
Yes, I
that
do
guy was a
remember it.
stunt coordinator, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like
But
hand to
yeah.
hand, like martial arts combat is surprisingly pretty rare in anime. Um, and like having really good choreography alongside of that is, doubly rare, right?
What about Jujutsu Kaisen? Don't they throw hands in that series?
Yeah, for like the first like I don't know 6 episodes, and then they're fucking shooting laser beams out of their face, man. Like they're summoning giant monsters and shit. It's like saying that it's like saying that Naruto is about hand to hand combat. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
called
like you are
Nier.
not
It's called Taijutsu, and there are
yeah,
in
Taijutsu
those
specialists.
series, you are not seeing someone doing shit where they're like fucking choking someone with their own necktie and like
yeah, and it's
throwing
like
them into
yeah, and
each
it's like
other.
realistically like drawn out, where it's like yeah, it's like choking somebody takes a fucking while, and it tires you out. um, But yeah, it's very, very visually impressive. And again, the music is really fucking good. The music is fucking awesome in this series. Um, it's very jazzy. Again, another one of the many aspects of this series that is constantly reminding you that, hey, this is the guy that made Cowboy Bebop. Um, it's
Yeah.
very bebop. It's very jazzy. Um, the the OP is literally Cowboy Bebop. Just straight
Yeah, I
up.
was gonna
It's
say.
straight up Cowboy Bebop. It's got the hard colors,
Can I
the black
also
silhouettes.
can I say something?
Um,
Is this I mean, I know because like he also had some stuff where, Watanabe had obviously his how do I say this? Interesting comments on like the live action, for instance, Cowboy
yeah,
Bebop, right? But I wonder how much of this was him being like, I truly want to design it this way, and how much of it was the producers kind of and the production people from the production committee kind of elbowing him in the ribs, being like, hey, we should probably try to upsell the fact that you're the Cowboy Bebop guy in this series. You know what I mean?
I
It's
mean,
like
shit. If it
yeah,
was
you
me,
see what I'm
I
saying?
would be like, after seeing the live action Cowboy Bebop, I would be like, listen, I gotta,
maybe
I gotta
maybe less
redo
on the
this and
Cowboy
like
Bebop.
show you.
Yeah,
No, I mean,
yeah.
I
like
gotta show
like
you what's up.
I
Like,
I'm the fucker that
Yeah.
made Cowboy Bebop. Okay, like check
Not the
me
live
out.
action, the real
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
still waiting for Cowboy Bebop season 2. Remember when they showed off Ed?
uh-huh, uh-huh. I think you're gonna be waiting for a while.
That woolly clip lives in my head rent free. He loves it.
But yeah, the
But yeah.
OP the OP is pretty good. Um, it's like purely instrumental. There's no vocals, which I think is cool.
Mhm.
It's like pure jazz. It's a really nice jazz piece.
Yeah.
Um, I do kind of wish the visuals were a little bit more uh energetic. It's pretty subdued. Um, but
Mhm.
like yeah, the motif is very Cowboy Bebop, right? Like it's literally like if you've seen the Cowboy Bebop OP, like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the ED is Lazarus by the Boo Radleys, which I guess is I don't even know who this is, but it's pretty
I feel like I've
catchy.
heard of them
Boo
before, but yeah.
Earns? Is that Boo Earns? Hell yeah.
Yeah. But it's pretty catchy. It's a more sort of chill. It's like a black and white um sort of panning kind of ED, where like all the characters are sort of laying on the ground, uh, presumably dead, and then like the main character stands up and is like a triumphant sort of swell, and yeah, it ends. And it's cool. It's nice. It looks good.
Mhm.
Um, I do want to sort of do a brief overview of the voice cast because the voice cast for this is pretty impressive. You have Axel, the main character, is of course the one and only Miyano Mamoru doing his Miyano Mamoru voice. You've got Manaka Iwami. You've got Uchida Maya. You've got Uchida Yuma. Um, you've got Makoto Furukawa, and they're sort of the main team. Um, and then
Oh yeah,
the
I heard that the Uchida siblings working together, they were apparently super nervous, like especially since
oh
they were
really?
doing like Lazarus too. Yeah, yeah. They're just like, and Uchida Maya is just like shaking, and it's like, get it together. And Uchida was just like, get it together, Desa, get it
Yeah.
together.
There's a funny scene where Leland, the character that Uchida Yuma voices, has to sort of
Mhm,
dress up as a girl in order
mhm,
for them to like get into this club and do this sort of like infiltration mission. Um, and in the episode, Leland sort of gets the invite over like the invite into like the VIP lounge over Uchida Maya's character, and they sort of like have
mhm.
a like little bit of a bicker back and forth, and I thought it was pretty cute. Um, so yeah, they got pretty good chemistry there. Um,
Yeah.
but the other voice actor I wanted to sort of put a shine on here is uh the one voicing Hirsch, who's sort of she's kind of like the CIA handler for the group, which is Megumi Hayashibara, who's doing
Mhm.
a pretty different voice from what she usually does. If you haven't heard of Megumi Hayashibara, I mean, you've probably heard her voice. She's
Yeah.
Ayanami Rei from Evangelion. She's Kitty from Hello
Mhm,
Kitty.
mhm.
She's Jessie from Pokemon. Um, she's Lena Inverse from Slayers. She's been in the industry for 40 years now, I think.
She is a brand name. Yeah.
Yeah, like
She's very much a brand
she's
name.
definitely one of the all-time goats. And she's doing a pretty different voice from what she usually does. It's a much more, mature, older voice, and it's quite nice. I like it a lot. Um, but yeah, the voice cast is very nice. But yeah, audio visually, just all around, uh, pretty top tier. I mean, there's a lot of money in this, and it
Yeah,
shows, right?
yeah.
Um, yeah, Mappo is definitely coming out swinging for this. Um, but yeah, overall, I think it's solid. Again, I do think it's stepped on a few rakes, but I think they were rakes that were really, really, really
The
hard to
alternative
avoid.
were potentially a lot worse, is what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yes.
Um, yeah, like I said, there were two roads that this series could have taken. I think it took the less rocky road, but it's still like the initial setup for this series, like the initial premise was it was hard to pull off, I think. Um, and I think they've done a pretty good job with it. Obviously, it's not perfect. Um, and I think if you go into this expecting um,
Second
Cowboy
Cowboy
Bebop
Bebop.
or
Mhm.
Space Dandy or these big like giants like Samurai Champloo, whatever, um, you're probably gonna be left wanting at least right now. I don't
Yes,
know if
yes,
I don't
yes.
know if they have some sort of crazy fucking shit planned for the latter half of this series. Um, but right now it's a pretty simple setup and payoff. Um, but what it executes, I think it executes pretty well. Um, it's it's enjoyable. It's just not it's not Cowboy Bebop, right? It's not a Cowboy
Yeah.
Bebop. Um,
I was about to actually ask you, because of the inevitable comparisons and because of obviously what everybody wants it to be inside their heart, regardless of, you know, whatever their head is thinking or whatever they say in public or whatever, right? But how do I put this? Do you think there is a significant potential for this series to become uh at least anime of the year worthy in a sense? You know what I mean? Because it's like you see where I'm going with this, right? It's like, do you think it can
for
is there a pathway right now for it to try to live up to the expectations that a lot of people have? for Watanabe with regards to this sort of stuff?
Uh, I mean, I think there's a possibility. I think it's
Mhm.
slim. Like I said,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
know. I don't know what they
sure.
could possibly have for the latter half of this series that pulls it into such a tight
Just
package that it lives up
yeah, just
to.
makes it immediately Cowboy Bebop for some
Yeah,
reason, like,
it lives up
magically
to the
lightning
legacy of
body.
Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
I doubt it. I think on its own right now, it's a solid package.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
But
but it's
again,
like if people are still
if
like,
you're
"Oh, just give me second Cowboy Bebop right now." It's like, "What?"
yeah, if you're expecting Cowboy Bebop, you're going to be disappointed. And I think the general reception to this series reflects that, right? Um,
Mhm.
the I know critic reviews of this have been pretty positive because I remember when this
Yeah,
was
yeah,
first
yeah.
coming out, I was talking in the DM about how a lot of outlets got to see the first 5 episodes early, right? And
Mhm.
they all sort of released preemptive, like tentative reviews, right? And pretty much all of them were pretty positive, right? Except for I think it was IGN. I think was like, this is dog shit, and it does not live
What?
up to Cowboy Bebop's legacy at all,
Oh,
right? And
no.
so if you again, I think if you're going into this expecting Cowboy Bebop, you're gonna be very disappointed. But I think if you
But can you trust IGN is a question.
no, no, never. I think IGN's reviews on anything like any like visual medium, like I forget what it was. I think they gave like The Mandalorian like a 4 or some shit. It was
Which
crazy.
season?
I think it was like the first season, right?
Oh,
It
don't
was
trust
yeah.
that.
It
I
was
don't trust that.
something good. Either way, IGN has been very bad with their like sort of movie and series reviews, but it was just very funny, sort of paradigm to see. But yeah, I
You know
think
what
if
it also kind of you know what it also kind of reminds me of? It's like it's kind of like how the flow of obviously this is a little bit more mild example, but something like Japanese or Korean movies, right, that get kind of ported into the West, where or even just like with manga, I guess in general, where it's like a lot of times you'll have stuff like the people who know of, like, the original material or of the original artist, they're like, "Oh, man," like, these later ones that are sponsored by Hollywood and blah, 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 they don't really live up to what they did, back in their early days or whatever,
yeah,
right? But the people who just know the stuff that got ported to the West, like, Parasite or Squid Game or whatever other, like, like, Japanese cop movies, stuff like that, they're, like, perfectly happy with the package that they have in front of them. So it's like, in that sense, it's definitely fine. Um, but I think it's a little bit unfortunate that there are some people who are like, "Hey, why aren't you making essentially like a second Cowboy Bebop?" Or, you know,
yeah,
why aren't you pulling lightning out of or capturing lightning out of in a bottle like right now, essentially.
yeah. Listen,
So
man. Unfortunately, not everyone can be the goat, Hideaki Anno. Okay. Um.
yeah, every single
Don't you
time,
mean?
all the hits.
Don't you mean Akiyuki Shimbo
Yeah.
Mm,
or Makoto Shinkai?
mm,
Yeah.
mm, I don't know about
I
that.
think he does actually.
I don't know about that one. But but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes people make stuff and they're different, and sometimes they're wildly different, and sometimes
Yeah,
people
yeah,
make
yeah.
stuff and you don't like what they make, right?
Or
Um,
they don't have to be masterpieces every time. It's very
yeah,
hard to even make one masterpiece, let alone
yep,
multiple.
yep.
So,
Um, yeah. So, do I think that Shinichiro Watanabe is washed? No, I don't. I don't.
mhm.
But I think this is pretty good. I think it's solid. But yeah, the
Yeah.
reception to this has been I don't want to say mixed because it is mostly positive, right? Like It's a
Yeah.
good show,
But there's always that
and
shadow.
people,
There's a
yeah, people
shadow
recognize
of
that, right? But there is
yeah.
definitely that a not insignificant contingent of people that are watching this, reviewing it, and being like, "This is not Cowboy Bebop," right? And
Yeah.
not many not many things are. Not many things
Yeah,
are
but
Cowboy
not
Bebop.
many a lot
So
of anime are not
Near
it's not Cowboy
near it's called
Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop. Only
that's
Cowboy Bebop can be Cowboy
true,
Bebop.
true. Only Cowboy Bebop truly is the greatest thing ever made and has no flaws. There are no pacing
Yeah.
issues or story pitfalls that Cowboy Bebop fall into at all, especially not in the latter half. Um, but that's a discussion for another day. Um, but yeah, overall, I think this is pretty good. I think the rating that it's at right now, on Mal, which is a 7.4, I think that's probably I don't really know. I don't know. I feel like I'd probably give this an 8 right now. Um, because again, I do think it's been very slow, but like
Mhm.
it's really fun to watch. You know what I mean?
You're right,
Um,
right, right.
so I think it balances out.
And again, it's
Um,
important to watch it for what it is, not like what you think Watanabe should be making right now or whatever. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
It's very
yeah.
that's very important.
But yeah, I think I don't really know if I want to comment on this. It's such a like a minor thing that I've seen in the online
Mhm,
Western emphasis on Western discourse.
mhm.
But there have been, I guess, a handful of people, um, grifters, I guess, calling this series woke, um, because
Because
the
it has a
series
black guy in it or
dared, the
what?
series dared to have a trans character. In one episode,
Oh,
there's a
okay.
trans character, and also in the same episode that there's a trans character, it dared to comment on black discrimination in academia, which is
Uh,
completely diabolical. Um, but yeah,
what what should have
Academia.
happened?
I remember that whole thing about Mirko in that in Academia. I do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what happened? Watanabe by hiring these like John Wick people, he brought in all the wokes.
Gone woke.
It was over.
true, true. Um,
Spire, are you
I
gonna watch
do.
Ballerina?
Uh,
I'm gonna watch Ballerina. Are you?
nah, I've heard of it. I didn't know. I
Oh,
don't know.
you
I
know
don't
what
think so.
Ballerina is, right?
It's yeah, I
It's the new
know.
John
Yeah, I've
Wick.
heard of it.
But yeah,
I
I do want
don't
to
think so.
just one final sort of shout out I want to say on that is that the trans character Jill is voiced by Yuichi Nakamura, and it fucking rocks. It's fucking badass.
Nice.
Um,
Nice.
so yeah, but yeah, this series is
Excellent
good.
casting.
This series is good. I give it an 8. I'd recommend it to pretty much anybody.
Mm,
Again, you should know what you're getting into. You should know that this is not Cowboy Bebop. It's more of a sort of oceans kind of vibe,
yeah, 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 yeah.
spy thriller kind of thing. I think it
Yeah.
delivers very well. It's got really good action sequences. It's got really good animation. It's got really good music. Um, it's good. It's a solid package so far. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, check it out.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Nier, again, for helping us cover Lazarus. Again, Lazarus, anime original here, done by Mappa, headed by none other than Watanabe Shinichiro. You know him, you love him, except for when he did Sankyo no Terror. But
Yeah,
if you like this sort of, as Nears pointed out, the ocean's kind of action, kind of thieves and rogues, kind of running rogues gallery, kind of running through and running rampant in like a city block and doing stuff. You know, please do check it out. Again, it's not the some like meta defining whatever that is Cowboy Bebop, but it's still very, very good. So you should watch things that are good, despite them not being Cowboy Bebop sometimes. So,
Or you could
it's
just watch Cowboy Bebop again. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, you can do both. You don't have to do sacrifice one or the other. But anyways,
True. After
but
every
yeah.
anime I watched, I chased it with another viewing of Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, it's a cocktail. You're just like
Yeah.
I
it's
mean,
and
Near. I mean, Near, you aren't wrong. Whenever I feel sad, I just turn on an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D.
Uh huh. Fair enough.
it's like you have like the cocktail. It's like you have chasers and stuff like it's the salt
Yeah.
on the rim like this rim salt. The rim salt is FLCL, and then like just
Yeah. Yeah.
just the chasers and stuff is just Ava and just Cowboy Bebop all day Macross.
Oh
uh,
man, this
but
Wait,
seasonal shit is so bad. I need to watch Cowboy Bebop right fucking now.
yeah. Oh my god.
didn't
Yeah.
Shinichiro Watanabe make was it Netflix that made another Fooly Cooly or was it Adult Swim? What am I thinking
That
of?
was Adult Swim. Yeah.
When's the live action Fooly Cooly?
I'm
Don't
sure. I'm
say
sure
the
there's
don't
have been
curse your
talks.
fear.
I'm sure there have been
Yeah.
talks for that.
It's like there have been talks very
Which
likely for that,
which season?
but please
What is
don't.
it? Alternative? What grunge? What are you doing there?
I think I
Whatever
think
it was.
Shoegaze was the really bad one,
Shoegaze?
right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Alternative was the one that people were okay with, but they were all kind of mid, to be honest.
Yeah.
At best.
Anyways, again, thank you very much, Nier, for having cover Lazarus. It's like a big undertaking to kind of go through it all and just do it. But again, thank you for helping to kind of cover this. Um, and again, if you guys want to watch, probably one of the most, I guess, most solid series of the season, one of the most solid series of the season, please do check this out.